Okay, hold on. You not only missed your wife giving birth, you told her to get over it? What do you mean? Oh my gosh. Oh, I can't. I've never even had a kid, but that still makes me so mad. What reasons could you possibly have for thinking that's an appropriate response? I guess we'll find out, but I don't feel good about it. Happy apple picking day! As you can see, I'm traveling again. We're in St. Louis this weekend for a friend's wedding, but the show must still go on. So, just a few reminders for any of our new friends. If you want to transfer your stories to be featured on Am I the Bad Apple, you can send them to my subreddit, r/AmITheBadApple. And as we always say, we all come from different branches of the apple tree. And what that means is we've all lived different lives, and those lives have shaped our experiences and our opinions. And it's also going to change how we perceive things, right? So the way that I read these stories, I could hear them one way, you guys could hear a completely different way, and then Joe Schmo down the street could hear it a completely different third way. And not only that, based on the things we've experienced in our lives, that's gonna form our opinions on these stories. So that's why we always talk about why. Why do we think this way? Why are we thinking this person's in the wrong or that person's in the wrong? Because sometimes I sometimes am missing context that I don't understand because I haven't experienced a situation, and sometimes you might have the same exact thing happen. You might teach me something new, I might teach you something new, someone else might teach both of us something new. We're never too old to learn something. So, with that being said, let's get started with this week's episode of Am I the Bad Apple? Let's go apple picking! Apple number 1. Am I the bad apple for punching my dad in the face? I, 37 male, have a son, 7, who has Down syndrome. He also has a mild case of Tourette's. Because of this, my family never treats my son right, and they always either ignore him or kind of bully him. This always shatters my heart. So I just do my best to give him all the extra love and support I can. Also, my son has a little bit of a love and obsession with Taylor Swift, and she really cheers him up. He started listening to Taylor about 2 years ago and eventually became a big Swiftie. And for his 7th birthday party, he had a whole Taylor Swift themed party. I got him a few shirts, a hoodie, a sweatshirt. I also got him a lot of her albums and some of her movies on DVD. My son had an absolute blast. To be honest, I only invited mutual friends, my brother, his wife, and their daughter. My extended family was not invited because of the bullying. And also because they kind of bully my son for loving Taylor Swift. They always claim that her music's for girls only, and that only people in the LGBTQ community listen to Taylor Swift. Either me or my brother, his wife, and their daughter try to shut them down, so that's why I wanted them at the party and not the extended family. But I guess they found out the party happened because the next day my family came to my house to confront me and ask why they weren't invited. They immediately started with the, "Why didn't you invite us?" And I told them why, but my dad started to yell at me and ended it with, "Well, at least I don't have a son." I lost it. I punched my father square in the face and I said, "Don't you ever talk about my son like that again." And they left. Thankfully, my son was at school when this happened, and when he got home, I decided to take the days off work and spend time with him, and he had fun, and I loved seeing him smiling. I needed that. But the next day, my family bombarded me with calls, demanding that I apologize, and that what my dad did was actually hilarious, and that he didn't deserve any consequences. But punching him was disgusting and super shameful, and definitely does deserve consequences. So I just need to know, was I the jerk here? Am I the bad apple? No. I know that there's gonna be some people who are immediately really upset, and I can already hear the keyboards. Because I feel like some people are going to compare this story to the story a few weeks ago. I don't exactly remember when it was, but it was a woman who didn't like how her mother was treating her son and punched the mom in the face. And I said, no, violence isn't the answer, blah, 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 blah. And I'm gonna tell you why I see these two scenarios as very different. Because I'll be honest, if I was this father in this scenario, I probably would have slapped him too. And I'm a very big violence is not the answer kind of person, but here's the thing. I don't remember exactly what the context was with the previous story, but I do know that like the mother hit her mother after the fact. There was not anything going on. Like they were arguing, but like it was more like I should be able to do what I want, and the mom just kind of like punched her. I think there's a big difference when like you're actively interacting with someone and they use like such a inappropriate and offensive derogatory term to your child. Like that, I know a lot of people use that word, they shouldn't, but at the end of the day, it's a slur. It's inappropriate. To call someone with a disability that word is gross. I'm not here for it. I probably would have slapped them. I don't deal with that. I have lived a long enough and diverse enough life that I unfortunately know that there are people who think that's so funny. And it's not. I hate it. And I am not saying that anytime I hear someone use those words, I just go up and slap them. Like, that's not, no. But I can definitely see if I was in the situation and I was talking to anybody and someone used that kind of language towards somebody that I loved, like, I don't have kids, but like my child, I can see myself losing my temper too. I'm not saying that like I'm planning to if I hear someone say be offensive, like, because I am a very big violence is not the answer kind of person, but I think that I would have also lost my cool in this scenario, for sure. Not saying that it's right, wrong, whatever. I just know myself, and I'm gonna be honest that I genuinely believe I would have lost my cool as well. So I feel like I can't give them, I wouldn't anyways, but I'm like not gonna give them a bad apple rating when I'm like, oh yeah, I think I would have done the exact same thing. Maybe not exact, I wouldn't have punched him, I would have slapped him, but yeah, no. And I think like for them to be surprised that you don't want them at the party, like, are you that dense? What? Like, I'm surprised it took you that long to stop inviting them to things, to be completely honest. Like, I'm one of those people that, like, it's hard for me to cut people off. For me, like, when people do me wrong, but when people do wrong to, like, people that I love, so easy. So easy. So, like, for me personally, I probably would have stopped inviting them to things and stopped letting them around my child much sooner, because I wouldn't want that child growing up with those people like saying those kinds of things to him and about him. Like, absolutely not. So I'm going good apple, because again, it's not like you went into this interaction planning to hit anybody. Like, he was offensive towards your son, you lost your cool. I'm not gonna fault you for that. Personally, like, there are times and places where like you making the decision to hit someone in the moment, I would go, I don't have a great opinion of you anymore. This does not give me a poor opinion of you. And there might be people that disagree with me, and that's fine. But even as a violence is not the answer kind of person, I think it's understandable that you lost your cool in that moment. And I don't think that you were wrong for not inviting them to the party either. I would have stopped inviting them a long time ago, so good apple. Apple number 2. Am I the bad apple for uninviting 25 family members for my wedding at the last minute? I've had this Halloween wedding planned for 2 years. The venue I wanted has a wait list. All of a sudden, my mom and grandmother decided that my Halloween wedding was satanic and wanted me to change everything at the last minute. The wedding's in 6 weeks. I told them both, no, not happening. My family's known about this wedding for 2 years. Now I guess half of my mom's side of the family says, yeah, it's cute, but the other half says they're not coming in a random power struggle contest, I guess. I told them, fine, if you want to be that way, be that way. I just immediately canceled everyone's invitations who complained or backed my mom or grandma on this. One of my sisters even insinuated that she was gonna step out of her bridesmaid's duties, so I immediately replaced her. There was about 25 people that decided to act dumb less than 6 weeks before the wedding. So again, I just sent out uninvited invitations and sent out new QR codes for those attending, and the venue's just gonna only check in the people who have the correct one. One of my aunts who was uninvited told me that people are allowed to disagree with me, and that doesn't mean that I can just pull an invitation from a wedding that they made plans to attend. I told them they had 2 years to complain, but saying that you're not gonna come to my wedding 6 weeks before just because you want to power struggle your way into me changing my wedding? No, that's BS. You all effed around and you found out, and I'm not gonna be bullied by my family over this. Okay. This is one of those scenarios. Actually, hold on, we can do it. Okay, friends, we're gonna do a snack break really quick. You guys, this isn't sponsored or anything like that. I just really like the Zapp's voodoo chips. So if you guys want to sponsor me, you let a girl know. Oh, these are good. All right, we gotta put this away. Gotta be professional. I'm not professional. All right. So this is one of those situations where, like, I don't necessarily agree with how everything happened, and I wouldn't do the same thing, but I don't necessarily think that I can fault you for it either. Like, let me explain. I've said this in a lot of stories that are about inviting or not inviting people to the weddings or cutting off family members. Like, I think that you have a right to do whatever you want with that kind of stuff, right? It's your wedding, it's your relationships with your family, it's your priorities, right? And I don't feel like I can fault you for having different priorities than me. If that's what's important to you in your life, and if that's the way that you want the dynamics in your family to be, like, that's your choice. I might not agree with you, but I'm not gonna say, like, oh, I think that makes you a bad person because we just have different priorities, or we want different dynamics or different relationships with our families, right? So, like, if you've decided that it's more important to you to be right and to put your foot down and to stand up for yourself than to have these relationships with these family members, that's your choice. Am I going to agree with it? No, I personally would not, and I wouldn't handle it that way either. Would I put my foot down and say, no, I'm not changing it? Absolutely. Would I just go in and uninvite everybody? No. Because for me, I feel like that kind of move is gonna, like, sever and burn a lot of bridges. And if that's something that you're fine with and you are okay with cutting out any family members who would pull that crap on you, that's your choice. I feel like there are a lot of people in the world who would absolutely do the same thing and agree with you on that. And I don't necessarily agree with you, but I'm not going to fault you for, like, having those boundaries. Like, those are just your boundaries. We have different boundaries. And that's okay. People can have different boundaries. They can have different lines that they're gonna draw in the sand. If that's your choice and that's your priority, that's fine. I'm not gonna give you a bad apple for it. I don't even know if I'm going to give you a crab apple for it, because even though I don't agree with the decision, I still wouldn't change, like, how you went about it, if that makes sense. And I'm saying that because a lot of times if I, like, agree with someone's intentions but not how it happened, I'll give them a crab apple. But here it's kind of the opposite of, like, you made this choice and how you went about it I think is fine. I just wouldn't have made the same choice. So I am going to give a good apple here, because again, I think it's totally valid for you to have the boundaries that you want to have for your wedding if that's the kind of relationship that you want to have. Now, if you come back, like, a few weeks later and you're like, oh my gosh, my family has not invited me to XYZ and I can't understand why, like, then yeah, I'm gonna call you crab apple. We're gonna, like, talk. But, like, for how this is playing out right now, assuming that, like, you're fine with this being the new dynamic in relationships with your families, then yeah, that's your choice, and I'm gonna go good apple for that. And, like, I totally hear what the aunt is saying of, like, you're allowed to disagree with people, blah, blah, blah. But, like, I also see the bride's point that if they're gonna make such a big deal of you changing XYZ 6 weeks before, like, people who have planned weddings know that 6 weeks before, like, that's very last minute. Like, you get caterers and you get vendors and you get decorations, like, so far in advance usually. Like, that's very last minute. Like, no, I think that the way that the family went about this is very inappropriate. And I totally understand what it's like to have people fundamentally disagree with your wedding over various things. Like, I don't even know if I want to say this. When I got married, and I said that we were gonna have beer and wine at the wedding, Avery's mom cried and, like, begged me to change it. And I'm like, no. It's already a compromise that we're not gonna have, like, a full open bar. We're just gonna have beer and wine. But for, like, religious reasons, they really wanted me to, like, not have any. And I put my foot down and I said no, and they were very upset. Like, I understand what it's like to have people want you to change things. We also had a priest and a rabbi. That was not received well. Like, I get it. We just have different ways of how we are willing to handle that. And that's okay. Different boundaries, different dynamics, totally fine. good apple, I might not have done the same thing, and I might not agree with you of how you handled it, but I'm not gonna like fault you for it just because I wouldn't have done the same thing. I can look past like my own self, if that, I don't even know if that's the right term, and like still say just because I wouldn't have done the same thing doesn't mean I think this makes you a bad person. I hope that makes sense. Apple number 3. Am I the bad apple for choosing my mother over my wife? I, 24 male, am married to my wife, 27 female. Our relationship has had issues because of her alcoholism. My mom's had issues with my wife in the past, but now she hates her. My 10-year-old brother passed away 3 months ago from a car accident that involved him, his best friend, and his best friend's mom. I begged my wife to promise not to drink at the funeral, and she said okay. Well, I don't know if she drank something or took something, but she disappeared for a moment and then came back and was definitely not sober. She acted like a complete fool and ended up knocking over my brother's urn. Luckily it didn't break, but I wanted to cry. I could tell that my mom was just disassociating from everything. Well, now after she ruined my brother's funeral, my mom obviously hates her. My mom called me after she had a few days to calm down and said she never wants to see my wife's face ever again, and just hung up. My wife texted my mother an apology, but the problem is my mom is someone who holds grudges, and my wife thinks that one quick apology always fixes everything. My mom turns 50 tomorrow and is having a party. Obviously my wife isn't invited, but I was just gonna go and drop off the gift. My wife doesn't want me to and said that my mom can come get it here since my wife isn't welcome over there. I said, you know my mom's not gonna do that, and I'm just gonna go drop off the gift. She said, fine, choose your mom over me. I just want to see my mom on her birthday, especially since we just lost my little brother, but now I feel like we can't do anything right. So, am I the bad apple for going? Okay, I say this all the time when we come into a situation with a disease like addiction or alcoholism. Like those things, they are diseases. Absolutely. And I think that the way that you act when you are unwell under those conditions is understandable, but they're not justifiable. The harm that you do to people doesn't just go away. It's still there. It still impacts people. Like when you're not well, whether it's for mental health issues or addiction or anything like that, like the harm that you cause is still real. People are allowed to feel a certain type of way over the way that they were treated. People are allowed to decide that they can or cannot have you in your life after those things. Now, do those things define you? To me, no, I don't think that they do at all. But people are still allowed to react to how you treat them during those times. So I think that like the mom's feelings are valid, absolutely. Especially if like the wife is like, oh, I apologized once, it's fine. Because the issue is like when you're unwell and you need help, if you're not actively getting that help, if you're like not seeking that help, I think personally that it makes your actions even worse. Like you ruined this funeral, you tainted all the memories of this young boy's funeral, right? And you apologize once and you're like, why is everybody mad? But like, are you getting help? Did you decide that that was so unokay that you need to do something different? Or are you just like, why can't we go back to normal? Like, it doesn't work that way. When you hurt people and you're like, oh, well, it's fine, I'll just apologize, like, and you don't choose to do different, that just makes that apology look fake and moot. Like, you know what I mean? So I feel like for her to give you like this ultimatum of like, oh, are you gonna choose your mom over me? Well, she's not choosing you. She's not choosing to better herself for you and your relationship and your family. Like, forget herself. Like, she should be doing it for herself. But, like, it was also your brother. It wasn't just your mom's son. It was your brother. She did that at your brother's funeral. And she still is, like, putting you in the middle, making you the bad guy when she's the one who needs the help. I didn't see anywhere in that story about her saying she's getting help or she's going to AA or, you know, like, oh, well, she promised me she wouldn't drink. That's not the same as going to AA. That's not the same as getting a sponsor and, like, getting the help that she needs. And she needs help. So like, I think she has absolutely no right to finger point at you and be like, and be mad that you are going to like support your mother on her birthday when she can't even support you at your brother's funeral, and is not willing to like take that as a reality check of, okay, something needs to change, I need to do different. She's just mad that people won't accept the situation as it is. Well, no, because you're not well. She's sick. She has a disease. She needs help. And if she's not willing to get that help, I've learned recently that when someone is unwell, there's only so much that you can do to lead them to the water. And if they're not willing to walk and drink, sometimes there's nothing else that you can do. That is devastating and that is heartbreaking, but there's only so much that you can do. And that goes for addiction, that goes for alcoholism, that goes for mental health issues, that goes for a lot of things. But you can't make someone want to do something different. Sometimes, if they choose later on to do something different, you can be relieved and say, okay, thank goodness, now we can start working on this together. But sometimes they wait too long where it doesn't matter and it hurts just too much. And that also is a thing. And so I think that you just have some reflecting to do and some conversations to have and some decisions to make. And that just is your reality, unfortunately. Apple number 4. Am I the bad apple for telling my wife to get over me missing the birth of our child? I work in a job where there are certain times I just don't have access to my phone, or I'm in the middle of nowhere. These times are well scheduled in advance and basically take up my whole day. There's a ton of safety regulations that I have to follow during this time. My wife was pregnant at the time and I planned to take time off of work near her due date. Unfortunately, she went into labor very early, like about a month early, and I was on an inspection. I only learned about her going into labor when I got signal again. By the time I got to the hospital, she'd already given birth. That was about 1.5 years ago, and I'm a very involved father. The issue is, every time we have an argument, she brings up that I missed the birth. It happens almost every time, from serious arguments to what fast food should we get that day. Today was my breaking point. We got into an argument about her wanting to change the daycare situation. She wants to change daycare to like one closer to home, and I do drop off and she does pick up, but the only one closer to home is way too expensive and we can't afford it. In the middle of the argument, she pulled out that I wasn't there for the birth again, and I told her she needs to get over that and stop using it in every freaking argument that we have, but she just called me a jerk and left. So I don't know what else I could have done. Like, am I the bad apple? So there are definitely situations where like the father-to-be misses the birth and it's like totally his fault. But this is just not one of those situations. Like, you didn't get the call and make the choice to keep working. You didn't see the call and choose to ignore it. Like, you were, she was a month early. Like, no one could have expected that. You can't predict that kind of thing. Sometimes that just happens. You were not reachable. And like, yeah, you left right after and got there, but it was a quick birth. That happens. And it's one of those things where it's not like the wife should just be happy about it, you know? I'm sure that was very scary for her, you know, especially if she was completely by herself with your first child. That's the first time she had to do something like that. She had to do it alone. She doesn't have to be happy about it. She can definitely be traumatized by it, upset about it, but like upset at you? No, that's upset at the universe maybe, but like it's not your fault. I genuinely think that like it was a traumatic situation for her. But I also think it's very unfair for her to keep bringing it up, because it's not like it's a choice that you made. It's also something that happened to you. You missed it. Like, that must be very upsetting and devastating for you. You missed the birth of your baby girl. Like, I'm sure you wanted to be there. So, like, I think that it would be a good idea to, you know, not in the middle of an argument, like when it's, you know, calm, like, talk to her. Maybe she doesn't even realize how upsetting it was for you to not be there. Like, obviously, make it clear that you know it can't compare to like how upset she was that she had to do that by herself. For sure. Like, you know, you're not the one giving birth here. Like, her body's the one that went through all that. It was painful. It was all the things. Definitely make that clear. But I think that you should explain to her how like badly you wanted to be there and how her bringing it up like really does upset you, because it's not like you wanted to miss it, like you wanted to be there. And I think that I'm not gonna give her bad apple until like she hears that from you and still chooses to do it anyways. Like, I think that she just doesn't understand how much it affects you also, personally. But you're not the bad apple for just it being in the wrong place at the wrong time kind of thing. Like, I guess I wouldn't even say right place, wrong time. I wouldn't even use that phrase. But like, there was no way you could have expected she was gonna be a month early. You were in the middle of work, you didn't have your phone, no one had any way to contact you. Like, that's not your fault. It's just an unfortunate situation. There's no winners there, but there's also, no one's a winner there. It's just, no one did anything wrong either. Like, it just stinks for everybody. But I'm still gonna go good apple because, again, you didn't do anything wrong. Do we have all good apples again this week? Why do I feel like we had that last week too? Did we? I can't even remember. It's been a long. September's been like a lot of travel for me. I've been to DC, I've been to Charlotte, I've been to St. Louis, I go to Boston next week. Like, it's a lot. But anyways, I got all good apples. Did you get anything similar to me? Did you get anything different than me? I really can't talk today. I definitely want to know. I want to hear all of your thoughts and opinions on these stories. This is a good one. For your well wishes today, we got two choices. It's National Cherry Jubilee Day. I don't think I've ever had that before, but it looks really yummy. My mouth is watering a little bit. And it's also National Punctuation Day. So as you're making your comments in the comment section, make sure they got correct punctuation. We're all gonna try this today. I know it's the internet and people don't usually do that, but today, yeah, it's National Punctuation Day. You know what I mean? Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day and hope to see you all next week. Bye, my lovelies. Mwah.